Elder Kethvar had lived for 800 years. He was old when the last human war ended, and he was ancient now. His people, the Kethvar, were known throughout the galaxy for their perfect memory. They never forgot anything, especially wars. Today, humans had contacted him for the first time in 3 centuries. They wanted to know about the old days, about why they were really banned from fighting. Kethvar sat in his meditation chamber and let his mind drift back to 2087. The year everything changed. He had been a young warrior then, fighting for the Vrex Empire against the expanding human forces. The humans had seemed weak at first. Their ships were smaller than Vrex battleships. Their weapons were less powerful. Their soldiers looked soft compared to Vrex fighters. The Vrex commanders had laughed when humans declared war. "This will be over in a month," they said. "These peaceful farmers think they can fight us." They were wrong. The first battle happened, near a gas giant called Zerion Prime. The Vrex fleet had 50 ships. The humans brought only 12. Every computer model said the Vrex would win easily. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo commanded the human fleet. Kethvar remembered him clearly, a quiet man with gray hair and calm eyes. He didn't look like a warrior, but he changed everything. Instead of fighting head-on, Hyun-woo split his fleet into small groups. While the Vrex ships stayed together, in formation, human ships moved like ghosts through the asteroid field around Zerion Prime. They hit supply lines. They attacked repair stations. They rescued Vrex prisoners and treated them well. What kind of enemy saves our wounded? Kethvar had asked his commander after the 3rd day of fighting. His commander had no answer. In Vrex culture, enemies were meant to be destroyed, not healed. The battle lasted 2 weeks. When it ended, 30 Vrex ships were destroyed or captured. All 12 human ships survived. But something even stranger happened. 5 Vrex captains asked to join the human fleet. Why? Kethvar had demanded of Captain Morthek, his own wing commander. "Because they fight the way wars should be fought," Morthek had said. "They destroy weapons, not people. They win battles, then help rebuild what was broken. Have you ever seen an enemy do that before?" Kethvar had not. In 800 years of life, he had never seen anything like human warfare. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. Humans would win battles, then immediately begin helping their former enemies. They shared medical technology. They offered trade agreements. They invited defeated soldiers to join their cause. By the end of the Human-Vrex War, half the Vrex fleet was fighting alongside humans. The Vrex Empire itself asked for peace, not because they were defeated, but because their own people wanted to become allies with humanity. Kethvar's memory jumped forward to the peace negotiations. He had been there as a witness when the Treaty of Eternal Peace was signed. The treaty wasn't human idea. It came from the Galactic Council, led by Speaker Mordun of the Altani Republic. The Council had watched the Human-Vrex War with growing fear. "If we allow humans to continue fighting," Mordun had said, "they will unite the entire galaxy under their influence within a century." The other council members agreed. Humans didn't conquer their enemies. They converted them. Every war humans fought ended with more species joining their cause. It was terrifying to governments that ruled through fear and force. So they offered humans a choice: accept the Treaty of Eternal Peace and be allowed to live freely in the galaxy, or face a war against every other species combined. Admiral Hyun-woo had accepted the treaty, but Kethvar remembered the look in the humans' eyes. Hyun-woo knew it was a trap, but he signed anyway to save his people from genocide. Now, 300 years later, Kethvar understood that the Council had made a terrible mistake. They had given humans 3 centuries to think, to plan, to grow, stronger in ways no one expected. Agent Yoon Mi-rae worked through the night in the Galactic Council archives. Her intelligence training had taught her how to find hidden information. Tonight, she was looking for the real story behind the Treaty of Eternal Peace. Most of the official records said humans were banned from war because they were too violent. But Mi-Ray found classified documents that told a different story. She discovered recordings of secret council meetings from 2087. In one recording, Altani speaker Mordun spoke to his advisors about the human problem. "They are not violent enough," Mordun said in the recording. "A violent enemy we can understand. A violent enemy makes other species unite against them. But humans, they make their enemies want to join them. This is far more dangerous than any weapon." Another recording showed council military analysts discussing human battle tactics. The lead analyst, a creature called Vectar, explained why human warfare was so effective. "Humans study their enemies like scientists study specimens," Vectar said. "They learn how we think, how we make decisions, what we fear, what we want. Then they use that knowledge not to destroy us, but to show us better ways to live. They offer us futures that are more appealing than our present. How do you fight? An enemy who makes you want to surrender?" Mi-Ray found her most shocking discovery in the personal files of Council Speaker Mordun. It was a diary entry written just before the treaty was signed. "Today, we ban humanity from war. History will say we did this to protect the galaxy from human violence. The truth is the opposite. We do this to protect ourselves from human kindness. Their way of war leads to peace, prosperity, and cooperation between species. If we allow this to continue, every government in the galaxy will fall within decades, not through conquest, but through the simple fact that citizens will demand the same freedoms and opportunities that human allies receive." Mi-Ray sent the files to the Resistance immediately. Within hours, the truth spread to every human colony in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Dr. Park So-Jin was analyzing old battle records when she made a discovery that changed her understanding of human military evolution. Hidden in the data was evidence that humans had never stopped preparing for war. During the 300 years of peace, humans had been building. They called it agriculture, medicine, engineering, and transportation. But So-Jin saw the military applications. Farming ships could carry troops. Medical research had created new ways to heal battle wounds quickly. Engineering projects had built factories that could switch from making tools to making weapons in hours. Transportation networks could move supplies and soldiers across the galaxy faster than anyone realized. "We never stopped being warriors," So-Jin whispered to herself. "We just learned to hide our weapons in plain sight." Her computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Elder Kethvar. "Dr. Park, I have memories you need to see. Memories of what your people were capable of in the old wars. The galaxy banned you not because you were monsters, but because you were teachers. You taught other species that there were better ways to live, better ways to settle conflicts. The Council feared that lesson more than any army." So-Jin arranged to meet Kethvar through secure channels. When his ancient face appeared on her screen, she saw something she didn't expect. Hope. "Your species is preparing to fight again," Kethvar said. "I can sense it. The Zephyrians think they are facing the same humans who accepted the treaty 3 centuries ago. They are wrong. You are stronger now, smarter, more dangerous." "How do you know?" So-Jin asked. "Because you've had 300 years to think about war without fighting wars. You've had time to learn from every mistake, to plan for every possibility. The humans of 2087 were impressive. The humans of 2387 will be unstoppable." As their conversation ended, So-Jin realized the truth. The Treaty of Eternal Peace hadn't weakened humanity. It had given them time to evolve into something the galaxy had never seen before. The old humans had been dangerous because they fought with honor and mercy. The new humans would be terrifying because they had learned to plan 3 centuries ahead. Across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire prepared for easy victories against defenseless human colonies. They had no idea that they were about to face an enemy that had spent 300 years learning how to turn warfare into an art form. The galaxy was about to remember why humans had been banned from war, and this time there would be no treaty to stop them. General Nam Ki-tae opened his eyes for the first time in 300 years. The cryogenic chamber hissed as it released him from frozen sleep. His body felt stiff and cold, but his mind was sharp. He had been waiting for this moment since the day he went into deep freeze. A young woman in a military uniform stood beside his chamber. "General, I'm Captain Seo Yoonji. Welcome back to the war." Ki-tae sat up slowly. "How bad is it?" "The Zephyrian Empire has destroyed 17 human colonies in the past month. They're moving faster now that word has spread about our first military action. They want to eliminate us before we can organize." Ki-tae nodded. It was exactly what he had expected. "Show me what you've built while I was sleeping." Captain Yoonji led him through the hidden military base. Ki-tae was amazed by what he saw. The base was built inside what looked like a simple farming station. But behind fake walls were weapons, ships, and soldiers who had been training in secret for decades. "How many bases like this exist?" Ki-tae asked. "Over 200 across human space," Yoonji said. "We've been preparing for this day since the treaty was signed." Ki-tae smiled. The young humans had learned well during their centuries of forced peace. They reached the command center, where dozens of officers worked at computer stations. Display screens showed the locations of Zephyrian fleets across the galaxy. Ki-tae studied the enemy positions with the eyes of someone who had fought in the old wars. "They're making the same mistake everyone makes when fighting humans," he said. "They think in straight lines. They expect us to defend our colonies one by one." "What do we do instead?" Yoonji asked. "We teach them why the galaxy banned us from war." On the bridge of the Zephyrian command ship Vengeance, Admiral Zekamora reviewed battle plans with his officers. The Zephyrians were proud warriors who had conquered dozens of species over the past century. They were not afraid of humans. "Intelligence reports suggest the humans are mobilizing some kind of military force," said his second-in-command, Colonel Thaknar. Zekamora laughed. "After 300 years of peace, they probably don't even remember how to hold weapons. Continue the attacks as planned." "Sir, there are some concerns about the old human reputation. Some of our older officers remember stories told by the weak to excuse their defeats," Zekamora interrupted. "The humans accepted the peace treaty because they were afraid of real war. Now we'll show them what real warriors can do." Zekamora had no idea that human ships were already moving through space around his fleet. Ships that looked like cargo vessels and medical transports, but carried weapons that had been hidden for 3 centuries. Captain Lee Dae-ho commanded one of those ships. His cargo vessel had been transformed overnight. Hidden panels had opened to reveal missile launchers. His crew of farmers and engineers had put on old military uniforms that their parents had saved in secret. "All ships, this is Captain Lee," he said into his radio. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy the Zephyrian fleet. We're trying to teach them a lesson." 12 human ships approached the massive Zephyrian force. On paper, it should have been suicide. The Zephyrians had over 60 ships, each larger and more heavily armed than the human vessels. But Captain Yoonji had studied every human battle from the old wars. She knew that humans won not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. "Begin Operation Ghost Dance," she ordered from her command ship. The human ships split up and disappeared into the asteroid field near Kepler Station. For 6 hours, the Zephyrian fleet searched for them without success. Then the real battle began. Human ships appeared behind Zephyrian vessels, fired precisely at weapons and engines, then vanished again before return fire could hit them. It was like fighting shadows, but the humans weren't trying to destroy the Zephyrian ships. They were disabling them. Every Zephyrian vessel that lost power received an immediate message offering medical aid and safe passage home. "What kind of enemy offers to help after shooting us?" asked one confused Zephyrian captain. "The kind that wins wars without making. Permanent enemies. Deho replied over the communication channel. Within 12 hours, half the Zephyrian fleet was disabled, but unharmed. The other half was so confused by human tactics that they couldn't organize an effective response. Admiral Zek Mora found himself surrounded by human ships, but instead of demanding surrender, the humans offered to tow his damaged vessels to safety. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No one fights like this." "We do," said Captain Yunji from her command ship. "We always have." News of the Battle of Kepler Station spread across the galaxy within days. Alien governments reacted with panic, confusion, or excitement, depending on their relationship with humanity. Ambassador Jang Woo-hyuk worked around the clock to manage the diplomatic crisis. His job was to convince alien governments that humans weren't planning to conquer the galaxy, just defend themselves. Some species, like the Kethvar Collective, immediately offered support. They remembered what human alliance meant from the old wars. Others, like the Altani Republic, demanded an emergency council session to discuss restoring the ban on human warfare. "You cannot allow this," Speaker Mordun said to the assembled council. "We banned humans for good reasons. If they return to warfare, they will destabilize the entire galactic order." But other council members had different opinions. Representative Vex Alta of the Miran Federation stood to speak. "The Zephyrians have destroyed 17 human colonies. What did you expect them to do? Accept genocide quietly?" "The humans could have asked for council protection," Mordun replied. "Like they asked for protection 300 years ago?" Vex Alta shot back. "The council offered them peace in exchange for giving up their right to defend themselves. Now, we complain when they choose defense over death?" The council session ended without agreement. Some species wanted to help humans fight the Zephyrians. Others wanted to restore the old ban. A few wanted to stay neutral and see what happened. Meanwhile, General Kite was planning the next phase of human military action. He stood in the command center, studying reports from across human space. "The Zephyrians are regrouping," Captain Yunji reported. "They're calling for reinforcements from their home systems." "Good," Kite said. "Let them bring everything they have. It's time to show the galaxy what 300 years of forced peace taught us." Kite activated a communication link to every human military base in the galaxy. Hundreds of commanders appeared on his screen. They were young and old, experienced, and new, but they all shared the same determination. "Today we begin Operation Infinity," Kite announced. "For 3 centuries, the galaxy has forgotten what human warfare looks like. Some of them think we're peaceful farmers who got lucky at Kepler Station. They're about to learn otherwise. The plan Kite outlined was ambitious beyond anything attempted in galactic history. Human forces would simultaneously attack Zephyrian positions across 200 star systems. They would use tactics that combined the old human way of war with new strategies developed during their centuries of peace. "Remember," Kite told his commanders, "we're not fighting to destroy the Zephyrian Empire. We're fighting to make them understand that aggression against humans is pointless. Some of them will become our allies before this war ends." Dr. Park So-jin watched the military preparations from her laboratory. She had discovered something that excited and terrified her in equal measure. Human military technology had evolved, far beyond anything used in the old wars. The farming tools developed over 3 centuries could terraform planets in weeks. The medical technology could heal massive injuries in hours. The transportation systems could move entire armies across the galaxy faster than anyone believed possible. But most importantly, human information networks had become incredibly sophisticated. Every human in the galaxy was connected through communication, systems that the Council believed were used for farming and trade coordination. In reality, they formed the most advanced military command and control system ever built. So-jin realized that the 300-year break from warfare hadn't weakened humanity. It had given them time to evolve into something new, something that combined the human gift for warfare with centuries of technological and strategic development. As she worked late into the night, Sojin received a message from Elder Kethvar. The ancient alien had been watching human military movements with great interest. Dr. Park, your species is about to do something remarkable. You're going to show the galaxy that war can be an art form. That victory can come without cruelty. That strength can lead to peace instead of domination. So Jin looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere among them, human ships were moving toward battles that would reshape the galaxy. After 300 years of silence, the universe was about to remember why humans had been banned from war, and this time they had grown too strong for any treaty to contain them. Admiral Lee Yu-jin stood on the bridge of the HSS Harmony, humanity's first openly military vessel to appear in space for 300 years. She was Captain Daeho's sister, but while he had spent the peace years running cargo, she had spent them planning for war. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 37 Zephyrian ships," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-woo. Yu-jin smiled. Operation Infinity had been running for only 6 days, and already the results were beyond their best predictions. Human forces had struck simultaneously across 200 star systems, catching the Zephyrian Empire completely off guard. "Accept all surrenders," she ordered. "Offer medical aid, food, and safe passage to any Zephyrian crews who want to go home. Make sure they understand we're not holding them as prisoners." "Admiral, won't that let them return to fight us again?" Jin-woo asked. "Lieutenant, have you studied the old human wars?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then you know that half of our greatest allies started as our enemies. Every Zephyrian we treat with honor becomes a teacher when they return home. They'll tell their people that humans fight differently than anyone else in the galaxy." Yu-jin turned to study the tactical displays. The battle plans were working perfectly, but not because of superior firepower. Human forces were smaller and less heavily armed than their enemies. They won through tactics that the galaxy had forgotten were possible. On Zephyrian command ship Destroyer, Empress Zekthara reviewed battle reports with growing confusion. She was the supreme leader of an empire that had conquered half a dozen species in the past century. No enemy had ever confused her like this. "Explain to me again how we lost the Argon system," she demanded of her military advisors. General Kolvex cleared his throat nervously. "The humans attacked with only 18 ships against our fleet of 60, but they didn't fight like a normal military force. They moved in small groups, hitting our supply lines and communication centers. When we tried to chase them, they vanished into asteroid fields and nebulae. And then they began broadcasting messages to our soldiers. Not threats or demands for surrender. They offered medical treatment for wounded Zephyrians. They shared intelligence about safe evacuation routes. They even sent food supplies to our ships that were running low on rations." Zekthara slammed, her fist on the table. "They were feeding our troops while fighting them?" "Yes, Empress." By the end of the battle, 3 of our captains asked permission to switch sides. It was the same story across the Empire. Human forces would attack with lightning speed, disable enemy weapons and engines, then offer aid to the crews they had just defeated. It was a way of fighting that made no sense to Zephyrian military doctrine. "How do you fight an enemy who keeps trying to help you?" Zekthara asked. None of her advisors had an answer. Colonel Baek Jin-ho crept through the maintenance tunnels of Zephyrian Command Station Alpha. His mission was simple: infiltrate the enemy's main intelligence center and download their military plans. But the way he planned to do it would have shocked his commanders. Jin-ho was a specialist in what humans called combat diplomacy. While other species sent soldiers to destroy enemy facilities, humans sent soldiers to make friends with enemy personnel. He emerged from the tunnels near the station's medical bay. As planned, the area was nearly empty, due to the main battle happening 2 systems away. Jin-ho approached the single guard at the door. "Excuse me," he said in perfect Zephyrian. "I'm Dr. Kim from the humanitarian ship Mercy. We received a distress call about injured personnel here." The guard looked confused. "I didn't hear about any humanitarian ship." Jinho showed him identification papers that looked completely authentic. "We're part of the Neutral Medical Corps. We treat all wounded, regardless of species or military affiliation." The guard's confusion deepened. In Zephyrian culture, enemies were meant to be destroyed, not healed. But Jinho was offering to help wounded Zephyrians. It made no sense, but it didn't seem threatening either. I suppose that would be acceptable," the guard said. Jinho spent the next 4 hours in the medical bay, actually treating wounded Zephyrian soldiers. His medical training was real. All human special forces learned healing skills alongside combat skills. While he worked, he listened to conversations and gathered intelligence. The wounded soldiers were amazed that a human would help them. Several asked why his people bothered to heal their enemies. "Because today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend," Jinho replied. "Wars end, but the kindness you show during war is remembered forever." By evening, Jinho had gained the trust of the medical staff. They invited him to dinner in the officers' mess. During the meal, he learned about Zephyrian troop movements, supply problems, and morale issues. He didn't need to break into the intelligence center. The information came to him freely. When he left the station, the Zephyrian medical staff gave him supplies to treat human wounded. They also gave him a message to deliver to human commanders. "Tell your leaders that not all Zephyrians support this war," said Chief Medical Officer Hardeth. "Some of us believe there are better ways to settle differences between species." Jinho's mission was a complete success, but more importantly, it was exactly how humans had always fought wars. They didn't just gather intelligence. They planted seeds of friendship that would grow long after the fighting ended. Dr. Han Bo-Ra worked frantically in her converted laboratory. Officially, she was a terraforming specialist who helped make dead planets suitable for farming. In reality, she was a weapons researcher whose peaceful tools could reshape entire worlds. "Dr. Han, the military needs your mining equipment ready." "In 6 hours," said her assistant. Lee Kong-min Bo-Ra smiled grimly. Mining equipment was their code for terraforming tools that had been converted into weapons. During the peace years, humans had developed technology that could change the atmosphere of a planet in days. Now that same technology could make enemy strongholds uninhabitable in hours. But unlike traditional weapons, Bo-Ra's tools could be reversed quickly. A planet made temporarily uninhabitable could be restored to normal within a week. It was warfare designed to force evacuation rather than cause permanent destruction. "The Zephyrians have fortified themselves on Kepler 442b, Kang Min reported. "They think the planet's heavy gravity and toxic atmosphere will protect them." "Then we'll show them that humans can work with any environment," Bo-Ra said. "Begin. Atmospheric Conversion Sequence 7. Make the planet uninhabitable for Zephyrians, but comfortable for humans." It was a perfect example of how human warfare had evolved during the peace years. Instead of bombing enemy positions, they simply changed the environment until the enemy couldn't survive there. Instead of killing their enemies, they forced them to leave. The Zephyrian garrison on Kepler 442b had 12 hours to evacuate before the atmosphere became toxic to their species. Human ships waited nearby to provide transportation and medical aid to anyone who needed it. Fleet Admiral Oh Chang-min coordinated the human war effort from his command ship, hidden in the Veil Nebula. He was in contact with all human forces across 200 star systems, but his real job was strategic planning on a galactic scale. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from 18 different alien governments," reported his aide, Commander Yu Sung-ho. "They want to know our intentions." Chang-min had expected this. Human military success was forcing other species to choose sides. Some wanted to help humans fight the Zephyrians. Others wanted to negotiate peace. A few were threatening to join the Zephyrian Empire if humans didn't stop their advance. "Schedule meetings with all of them," Chang-min ordered. "But make our position clear. We're not seeking conquest or territory. We're seeking the right to defend ourselves and our allies." Changmin understood that this war wasn't really about defeating the Zephyrian Empire. It was about establishing humanity's place in the galactic community. For 300 years, humans had been treated as harmless farmers who could be attacked without consequence. That era was ending. The real genius of human strategy was that it gave everyone a way to win. Zephyrians who surrendered were treated with honor and sent home safely. Alien governments that supported humanity were offered favorable trade agreements. Even neutral species received human aid and protection. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from the Zephyrian Empress," Seung-ho reported. Changmin read the message carefully. Empress Zekathara was requesting a personal meeting to discuss ending hostilities. It was exactly what Changmin had hoped for. "Send our reply," he said. "Tell the Empress that we accept her request for negotiations, but make it clear that any peace agreement must guarantee the safety of all human colonies." Changmin knew that. The real test of human warfare was not how well they could fight, but how gracefully they could end a war. The galaxy was watching to see if humans had learned anything during their 3 centuries of forced peace. The answer was about to surprise everyone. As reports came in from across human space, one thing became clear. Operation Infinity was succeeding, beyond all expectations. Not because humans were destroying their enemies, but because they were offering their enemies something better than endless war. For the first time in galactic history, a species was winning a war by making their enemies want to join them. Fleet Admiral Oh Changmin sat across from Empress Zekathara in a simple meeting room aboard the neutral station Unity. Between them lay the future of 2 civilizations and the fate of countless worlds. The Zephyrian Empress was nothing like Changmin had expected. She was young, intelligent, and tired. The war had cost her empire dearly, not just in ships and soldiers, but in the loyalty of her own people. "Admiral Changmin," she began, "I came here expecting to negotiate with a conqueror. Instead, I find myself talking to someone who offers peace more generous than my own terms of war." Changmin had sent his terms to the Empress 3 days earlier. The human demands were shocking in their reasonableness. Humans wanted only the guarantee that Zephyrian forces would never again attack human colonies. In exchange, they offered medical aid, technological sharing, and trade agreements that would benefit the Zephyrian Empire more than their current conquests. "Empress, we didn't start this war to destroy your people," Changmin said. "We started it to survive. Now we want to end it in a way that helps everyone." Zekathara studied the human admiral. Everything she had learned about human warfare made no sense according to Zephyrian military theory. Strong civilizations were supposed to dominate weak ones. Victorious armies were supposed to demand tribute and territory. Yet here sat the leader of a force that had defeated her empire, offering friendship instead of conquest. "My advisors tell me this is a trap," she said. "They say humans are trying to weaken us before delivering a final blow." "Your advisors don't understand how humans fight wars," Changmin replied. "We don't seek final blows. We seek final agreements." At that moment, the meeting room's communication system activated. An ancient alien face appeared on the screen. It was Elder Kethvar, the collective's most respected historian. "Forgive the interruption," Kethvar said, "but there are things both of you need to understand before these negotiations continue." Kethvar's image was joined by another familiar face, Council Speaker Morden of the Altani Republic, the alien who had proposed the Treaty of Eternal Peace 3 centuries earlier. "I am here," Morden said slowly, "to explain why humans were originally banned from war, and why that ban was the greatest mistake in galactic history." Changmin and Zekathara listened as Morden revealed the truth that had been hidden for 300 years. "We did not ban humans because they were monsters," Morden began. "We banned them because they were teachers. Every war humans fought ended with their enemies becoming their allies. Every species that battled humanity emerged stronger, wiser, and more peaceful than before." Kethvar nodded his ancient head. I was there, Empress. I fought against humans in the last war. They could have destroyed us completely. Instead, they showed us better ways to live, better ways to settle conflicts. Half my people joined the human cause before the war ended, not as conquered subjects, but as willing partners. Morden continued his confession. The Galactic Council feared human influence more than human weapons. We saw entire civilizations transforming after contact with humanity. Species that had been warlike for millennia suddenly began choosing diplomacy over force. Governments based on fear and oppression found their citizens demanding the freedoms that human allies enjoyed. So you banned them, Zekthara said, understanding dawning in her eyes. We convinced ourselves it was for the good of the galaxy, Morden replied. We told ourselves that human warfare was too chaotic, too unpredictable. But the truth was simpler and more shameful. We were afraid that human ways of thinking would spread throughout the galaxy. We were afraid of losing our power. Changmin spoke quietly. And now, Morden's image flickered as the old alien struggled with emotion. Now I see that 3 centuries of peace have made the galaxy a darker place. Without human influence, wars have become more brutal, governments more oppressive, and entire species more afraid of each other. The Zephyrian Empire's expansion is just the latest example of what happens when the galaxy forgets human lessons about warfare and diplomacy. Empress Zekthara felt something break inside her chest. Her empire had been built on the idea that strength meant domination, that victory meant the destruction of enemies. But the humans had defeated her forces while simultaneously offering friendship and aid to her people. Admiral, she said to Changmin, show me these better ways your people speak of. Changmin activated his personal communication device. Within minutes, the meeting room filled with holographic displays showing human activities across the galaxy. The images were startling. On worlds that had been battlefields just weeks earlier, human and Zephyrian soldiers worked together to rebuild damaged cities. Former enemies shared meals, exchanged cultural knowledge, and collaborated on projects that benefited both species. This is impossible, Zekthara whispered. Soldiers cannot become friends so quickly. They can when they discover they were fighting for the wrong reasons, Changmin said. Your people are not evil, Empress. They were following orders from leaders who believed that conquest was the only path to security. We've shown them alternatives. Elder Kethvar spoke again. Empress, I have lived for 800 years. I have seen many wars and many peaces. What humans offer is not just an end to fighting, but an evolution beyond the need for fighting. The holographic displays changed to show long-term projections. Human analysts had calculated what would happen if the Zephyrian Empire accepted the peace terms. Within a generation, both civilizations would be stronger, richer, and safer than either could be alone. We're not asking you to surrender your independence, Changmin explained. We're asking you to join a different kind of galactic community, one based on cooperation instead of conquest. Zekthara looked at the projections for a long time. Everything her military advisors had told her about human weakness was clearly wrong. The humans had won not through superior firepower, but through superior understanding of what victory actually meant. What about my people who resist this change? She asked. The same thing we offer everyone, Changmin replied. Choice, time, and patience. No one is forced to accept human friendship, but no one is prevented from choosing it either. It was then that Zekthara understood the true genius of human warfare. They didn't conquer their enemies. They made their enemies want to conquer themselves. They offered visions of better futures that were more appealing than current realities. I accept your terms, she said finally, but I want to add one condition of my own. Changmin raised an eyebrow. What condition? I want human advisors to help reform our military and government systems. If your ways of war lead to lasting peace, I want my people to learn those ways. Changmin smiled. It was exactly the kind of request that human negotiators hoped for but never demanded. Agreed, Empress, but our advisors will work alongside your own people, not replace them. The best changes come from within. As the formal peace agreement was signed, news spread across the galaxy at light speed. The Zephyrian War was over, but more importantly, it had ended in a way that shocked every observer. The Zephyrian Empire didn't collapse or become a human puppet state. Instead, it began a voluntary transformation into something new. Zephyrian citizens demanded the same freedoms and opportunities they saw human allies enjoying. The Empress, rather than being overthrown, led the changes and became more popular than ever. Within months, other species began requesting human mediation for their own conflicts. The old ways of war, total destruction of enemies, began to seem primitive and wasteful compared to the human approach. Council Speaker Morden addressed the Galactic Council one final time as his term ended. 300 years ago, I convinced this council to ban humanity from war. I told you it was for the protection of galactic peace. Today, I stand before you to confess my error and resign my position. The galaxy is changing, he continued. Species that were enemies for millennia are becoming friends. Governments that ruled through fear are learning to lead through inspiration. Wars that could have destroyed civilizations are ending with handshakes and trade agreements. This is what we tried to prevent when we banned human warfare. This is what we were afraid of. And this is what we should have been hoping for all along. Elder Kethvar watched the council session from his meditation chamber. At 800 years old, he had seen the galaxy at its worst and its best. Today, he was seeing something new. The galaxy at its most hopeful. Dr. Park So-jin worked late in her laboratory, but tonight she wasn't studying alien warfare. She was studying alien peace. The data coming in from across human space showed patterns she had never seen before. Former enemies weren't just stopping their fights. They were actively helping each other. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. Beside him stood Captain Veltar, a former Zephyrian officer who had joined his crew after the peace agreement. They were carrying supplies to rebuild New Sol Colony, the settlement where this war had begun. Captain Lee, Veltar said, may I ask you something? Of course. Why do humans fight the way you do? Why help your enemies when you could simply destroy them? Dae-ho thought about his friend Subin and his murdered family. He thought about the anger that had driven him to break the Treaty of Eternal Peace. And he thought about the peace that had grown from that anger. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime buzzed with alien voices. 12 different species filled the massive room, each one thinking they were the most important in the galaxy. The walls were made of crystal that sparkled in the light of 3 suns. This was where the Galactic Council met every few months to decide the fate of billions of lives. Captain Lee Dae-ho sat in the back corner, almost forgotten. His human uniform looked plain next to the fancy clothes and natural armor of the other species. The other beings barely looked at him. To them, he was just a representative from a baby species that had only been flying between stars for 200 years. The Krexmar were the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They looked like giant insects with dark metal shells and 4 arms. Their leader, Thexville, stood at the center podium. His voice was deep and scary when he spoke. Today we talk about the small problem with the Zephyron Empire, Thexville said. His compound eyes glowed red as he looked around the room. They are bothering some human colonies. This is not important enough for the Council to worry about. The other species made their agreement sounds. The crystal beings called Veltari chimed like bells. The gas creatures called Nethra made whooshing noises. The plant-like Sylvani rustled their leaves. They all thought the same thing. Humans were too weak to matter. Lee Dae-ho listened quietly. He had been told to just watch and learn. Earth's government wanted to know what the big species really thought about humans. Now he knew. They thought humans were like pets or farm animals. The tall, thin Akhmari representative stood up next. Her people were known for being very smart. "The humans have asked for help 3 times in the past year," she said in her musical voice. "Each time, Zephyron raiders have attacked their colonies. The humans say they cannot defend themselves properly." This made several species laugh. The Morsgeth were proud warriors who looked like walking reptiles. Their general, Korvax, slammed his clawed hand on his desk. "If they cannot fight, they should not claim territory," he growled. "The strong take what they want. This is the way of the galaxy." Thexville nodded his large head. "The human military is weak. They have only small ships with basic weapons. Their technology is hundreds of years behind ours. Why should we waste our time protecting them?" The Veltari representative, a being made of living crystal, sang her response. "We have studied human science. It is very simple. They still use nuclear power for their big ships. They know nothing about energy manipulation or gravity control. They are like children playing with toys." Lee Daeho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. These aliens had no idea what they were talking about. But that was exactly what Earth wanted them to think. The Council spent 2 more hours, talking about humans like they were not even there. They decided that human colonies were acceptable losses if it meant avoiding conflict with the Zephyron Empire. The Zephyron were aggressive, but not strong enough to threaten the major powers. "Let them have their fun with the humans." "Besides," said the Nethra representative, his gas form shifting colors, "humans reproduce quickly. Even if they lose a few colonies, they will make more humans to replace them. This is their only useful skill." More laughter filled the hall. Lee Daeho watched it all with quiet eyes. He was recording everything through hidden devices in his uniform. Admiral Park Ji-woo would want to see this meeting. Finally, Thexville looked toward the human section. "Captain Lee Daeho of Earth, do you have anything to say? Your people have asked for this meeting." Lee Daeho stood up slowly. The entire hall went quiet. Hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and other ways of seeing focused on him. He walked to the speaking area in the center of the room. His boots made soft sounds on the crystal floor. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began. His voice was calm and respectful. "Humanity is grateful for your time and attention. We know you are all very busy with important matters." Some of the aliens looked bored. Others seemed curious about what the primitive human would say. "We came here hoping you would help us against the Zephyron attacks," Lee Daeho continued. "Our people are dying. Our colonies are being destroyed. We thought the Galactic Council cared about justice and peace." Thexville made a sound like metal scraping metal. This was how his species laughed. "Human, you speak of justice and peace, but the galaxy runs on strength. You are weak. The Zephyron are stronger than you. This is natural law." "We understand your position," Lee Daeho said. He looked around the room at all the alien faces. "You have made it very clear. Humans are on their own." "Yes," agreed the Akhmari representative. "Perhaps this will teach your species to be more realistic about your place in the galaxy. You should focus on mining and farming. Leave military matters to those who understand them." Lee Daeho nodded slowly. "I see. Well, in that case, I have a message from my government." He touched a small device on his uniform. A holographic image appeared above his head. It showed the Earth flag and the seal of the Human Space Command. "Humanity thanks the Galactic Council for this educational experience," he said. His voice was still calm, but something had changed. There was something harder in his eyes now. "We now understand exactly where we stand. We will handle our own affairs from this point forward." The hologram changed to show Admiral Park Ji-woo. Even as a recording, her presence was impressive. She was an older woman with gray hair and steel in her eyes. She wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's military. To the members of the Galactic Council, the Admiral's recorded voice said, humanity withdraws its request for aid. We will defend ourselves using our own methods. Thank you for showing us your true nature. It has been very informative. The recording ended. Lee Daeho looked around the room one more time. That is all. Humanity will remember this day. He walked back to his seat and began packing his things. The aliens in the room seemed confused. Some were talking quietly among themselves. This was not how weak species usually acted when the Council rejected them. Most would beg and plead and offer trade deals. Thexville called out, "Captain, you seem to misunderstand. We are not your enemies. We simply cannot spare resources for every small conflict in the galaxy. Perhaps if humanity proves itself worthy over time." Lee Daeho stopped packing and looked up. "Thexville, you and your council have made your decision. Humanity respects that decision. We will not ask again." "But surely you understand," said the Veltari representative. "Your species needs guidance. You are still learning how the galaxy works. We could teach you, help you grow stronger over many centuries." "No, thank you," Lee Daeho said simply. "We will figure things out ourselves." He finished packing and walked toward the exit. As he reached the door, he stopped and turned back to the room full of aliens. "One last thing," he said. "When the history books write about this day, remember that humanity asked nicely first. Remember that we tried to do things the polite way." With that, he left the hall. The door closed behind him with a soft sound. The aliens sat in confused silence for several minutes. Finally, Thexville spoke. "Odd behavior for a primitive species. Usually they cry or get angry when we refuse to help them. Perhaps they will learn wisdom from this," suggested the Akmari representative. "They may realize they need to accept their limitations." The Morsgeth general laughed. "Or they will all die when the Zephyron finish with them. Either way, the problem solves itself." The council moved on to other business. They had already forgotten about the humans and their strange behavior. After all, what could one small, weak species possibly do? In his ship, Lee Daeho sent an encrypted message back to Earth. It contained only 3 words: Phase 2 approved. Earth, Admiral Park Ji-woo read the message and smiled. It was not a nice smile. She turned to her command staff. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "it's time to drop the act.